Everybody, Sipe, the host of God Made Millionaire TV, the hottest show on daytime television. And I've been waiting all week for you, yes, you, to stop on by and watch our show. And what a show we've got lined up for you today. Waiting on set, we have Michael Sipe. Michael is a former Navy officer and a pilot. He's an author, a business coach, and a strategy consultant. He helps companies double or even triple their revenues by using strategies that bring fun and joy to the workplace. So without any further ado, let's crack open the God Made Millionaire Bank Vault and let's activate some God-given dreams. Michael, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, TC. I am excited to be here.
I tell you what, Michael, I am so thrilled and honored that you've chosen to come on our show today and sharing what a prophetic mandate you have on your life. I was reading your book, Out of Dad's Box, How to Break Free from Parental Control and Transform Your Life in Any Age. And I've got to tell you, Michael, from the jump, from the very beginning of that first chapter, when you talk about your near-death experience, that blew me away. But you had what I would call a defining moment that altered the course of your life. Can we talk a little bit first about that defining moment in business that literally changed your life?
Sure. TC, I love your energy. And what I think is really interesting is we all, in our careers, look for improvement. We look for a better quality of life. We're looking for an opportunity to move up, to advance, to take a better paying job, or to move to a new neighborhood. And so like many others, I, throughout my career and life, look for opportunities to do something a little bit bigger, a little better. And I found myself, after a while, in a really cool position where I was an innovation director, I was an innovation consultant for industry and government, and I was designated to be the chief architect for a project. And that project brought in 5 different entities together, and it was probably about just under $1 billion worth of investment that was going into this project. And so I had a lot of pressure on me. I felt like a lot of pressure to pull all this together. Now, I had been a systems engineering major in college. I knew how things fit together. It was kind of my background. So it was natural for me to see how things fit together. And so I could see the big picture, but I had a problem. The problem was not everybody knew the big picture. They couldn't appreciate it. And so teamwork wasn't there. People had this not invented here syndrome where they didn't want to know where their piece really fit. And so for months, we were struggling to try to bring everything together. Well, this one particular day, and I think, you know, we have these moments in our life where we have these ahas or these, hey, we made something happen. We've been productive. Well, that day, everything just started clicking. It was wonderful. It was so amazing to see that happen.
You're talking about those moments like Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway when he goes, "Fire!
Yes!
I have built fire!" That type of epic accomplishment.
That is exactly
that the type of energy you're talking about?
That is the energy I'm talking about.
So you had one of those moments where you were like, ha!
Right,
I built fire.
We're at the top of our game. Everything's clicking. And I'm walking out to the parking lot at the end of the day, and there are just a few cars left. And I'm feeling great. I'm feeling wonderful. I'm like, hey, I'm doing my job.
Right.
I am being productive. And then I had a thought. And that thought was, if only my dad could see me, he would be so proud. And at that same moment, I also realized I was still living my dad's vision of what my life should be. And it wasn't really what I was being called to do. Like deep down in my body, I could feel that I wasn't aligned to my true purpose, to my true calling. And it had something to do with my dad, and I had to work myself out of it. So as I reflected back on all the things I'd done in my career, I thought about when I had the biggest impact and I felt good about it. And that was when I was a flight instructor in the Navy. And I was taking brand new pilots out of flight school and guiding them to land on an aircraft carrier at night for the very first time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very stressful, right? Because you can think about it, for those of you that don't know about naval aviation, it's a dangerous environment. And sometimes there's the chance that we can fly into the back of the ship and crash, or we can go beyond the engine and end up in the ocean. And the fear of death is very strong. And so handling that fear is a challenge. So my job in the right seat was to be that assured voice telling them, hey, a little left, a little right, we're getting a little slow. But do it in a way that I was coaching them to get on that perfect glide path, to be in that perfect spot for landing. And I enjoyed it a lot. And the results of that were that I had a 100% success rate with the pilots I trained. I felt like that's where I was contributing and really making an impact. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, how can I bring that a little bit more? And I realized that during my career, those pivots that we make were pivots away from my dad. And so in my book,
Wow.
it was how do I make those pivots? How does one make a pivot as an adolescent? How does one make a pivot as a college student? How does one make a pivot in career and choices that are away from what we're being told what to do? And my dad was a very controlling man, and he had a tremendous influence on my life. So I realized that making those pivots, those choices, was something to write about.
Interesting, because when I read that in the book, in your book, about I wish my dad was here to see this, I wish my mom was here to see that, I relate to that so much because, like with our show, God Made Millionaire TV, you know, one of my only regrets is the fact that my mom and dad are not here to see this. Right? And it challenges you. And I found that was so intriguing that you're challenging that paradigm, that pre-existing belief, and whose life are you living? Are you living the life that you were born to live, or are you living the life that your mom and dad wanted you to live? And it's just interesting that at that precise moment of an epic accomplishment business-wise in your life, that you had that moment that altered everything.
It did.
In your life.
It absolutely did. And it led me into a new path. But I think you have to understand a little bit about my dad and the control he had over me. And so if we go back a little bit in his life, he grew up during the Great Depression in Kansas. And as a lot of people know, it was a very tough time financially for many, many families, and especially in the Midwest. We had the Dust Bowl, crops were failing left and right. The economy was really in a massive depression. And my dad lived in poverty most of his life. His dad only had a third-grade education. His mom was a school teacher, barely had enough income from that. And they were always in a challenging situation financially, well below the poverty line. So the mindset you get from something like that is one of scarcity, one of lack.
Right.
It's natural. Like, why wouldn't you have that kind of thought process? And what he did to compensate for that was he had to control everything to the nth degree. He was a micromanager, and he was on top of every little thing. And it reflected in his approach. Well, and he was a naval officer and fought in World War II. He was a gunnery officer, and he got into electronics and aviation engineering stuff, but he was a naval ship driver.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. And then, of course, you went into the Navy.
I did go into the Navy and became a pilot. And in the book, I talk a little bit about the pivots that we can make that are just one deviation away of what maybe a parent might want us to do. And so, you know, if we can find something when we feel we're controlled so much that allows us to break away and maybe get to that higher calling that we're being asked to do. And for me, I love to do things that were fun. I wanted to enjoy life, right? But my dad, you know, back when I was about 8 or 9 years old, he was so controlling of our family. He worked from home. And one night at the dinner table, the four of us were sitting around, my dad, my mom, my sister, and I, and we were having a normal discussion at the family dinner table like a lot of American families do. And my dad started talking about drowning and how swimming and drowning was a potential thing and drowning was awful. Well, being 8 or 9, I wanted to tease my dad a little bit for whatever reason. And so I said, drowning's not bad. Well, that really got him angry. And he reached out and started to show me what drowning was like. And he started strangling me. And he was really angry, and he held on for much longer than he should have. I blacked out. I passed out. I fell to the table, apparently fell to the floor, and it was something very horrific for those in my family to see. But I wasn't there anymore. I was now in a void, a black space where there is no sound, there is no light, I had no body, but at the same time, I was conscious. And so what that taught me was that this 3D world, 5 physical sense world, isn't all that there really is. And so I was later resuscitated. I had a very short near-death experience, but I was resuscitated and I came back. But the impact that had on the rest of my growing years and into my adult life was that my dad was the one in control. And he meant well. He was trying to do the right thing in his mind, but he was trying to control. And so that control mindset meant that I had to do school in a certain way. I couldn't go out and play, or I had to do sports a certain way, or I had to go into a certain career. And so I did, and I followed a lot of that. And I ended up going to the same school that my dad had gone to. I went to the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. I was following a lot of the same stuff, but every time I did something a little different. And so the book, I talk about how we can make subtle shifts away from what a controlling person might have for us. Now, it doesn't have to be a parent. It can be society. Society can tell us how we should be living. Or it can be a friend. It can be a big brother or a big sister. So how do we shift our energy and our awareness into something that is a little different than what we're used to doing? And so as I reflected back about my experience coaching pilots to land on a carrier, it was that aha moment of, I'm a pretty spiritual person. I have faith. I have things that allow me to have a better life. And I've made these pivots away from my controlling dad. But what was it that was making that happen? And how can I bring that to more people? And that's when I started thinking about, well, what kind of spiritual training can I bring in that's maybe not religious, but is a spiritual piece that will resonate with a lot of people?
JL, I believe that God is going to raise up 1,000 God-made millionaires at the least through our God-made millionaire movement, with what we're doing, with our show, with our coaching services, with everything that we're doing at God-made Millionaire. But people need support along the way. So that's why we've created the God-made Millionaire Inner Circle.
Right. The God-made Millionaire Inner Circle is where you get the opportunity to get coaching and training by myself and T.C. Bradley. I've been mentored by T.C. Bradley for over 16 years, and I saw the need for having a coach. For 16 years, there's times where I procrastinated, there's times where I felt unmotivated and discouraged, and T.C. was there right by my side to give me the coaching and the mentoring that I needed to step up. And now it's your turn to get that same mentoring and coaching as well with the God-made Millionaire Inner Circle.
JL, that's the number one request that we get is people want coaching, but they want affordable coaching.
Right, and the God-made Millionaire Inner Circle will give them just that. And not only that, but the God-made Millionaire Inner Circle is very interactive. So it's not something where you just listen to us pontificate. You're actually going to get in the trenches with us, and we're going to put you on the hot seat and be able to look at your business and coach you and mentor you through your purpose.
JL, what's pontificate mean? You use some big words. What does
They
that
know
mean?
what it means. They can Google it.
Hey, if you've been given a God-given dream, this is the place. If you're one of the 1,000 God-made millionaires that God is raising up in this season, you need to be a part of the God-made Millionaire Inner Circle. Michael, I want to backtrack. First of all, I didn't do this before. I want to do it now. Thank you for your service to our great country. Thank you so much for that. So I want to honor you for that.
Thank you, TC.
But I read that story about your near-death experience in the book, and I was horrified on so many levels of what happened to you at such a young age. Was that out of character for your father to respond in a violent manner? Was that the first time that that had happened?
You know, I think a lot of people in some families have experienced spankings, you know, so spanking was normal in our family. So there was some amount of physical, I won't say violence, but physical interaction,
Right.
right? But there was a lot of criticism and a lot of critique, and I was always second guessing. So I had this sort of victim mindset of like, I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough. I have a little fat guy sitting up here
Right.
talking to me saying, I'm not what I could be.
Michael, you talk in the book about the natural state of being for a business. Can you talk about what that is?
Yeah, sure. The natural state is one of abundance. And I like to go back to the idea of John 4:35 in the Bible. It's where Jesus is talking to his disciples. He's talking about seeing the field white for the harvest, which means knowing and seeing that we're not looking at the 4 months leading up to the harvest. We're actually seeing it as already now. It's part of our experience now. And so in business, we're challenged all the time with outside adversity. But we need to see that our business is fruitful now. And that is a mindset. It's a trust in a bigger power. And when we tap into that, we experience it more and more. And we see blessings and synchronicity showing up in our business that we didn't see before.
What you're saying is if we can switch our focus and we can tap into this abundance that already is there for our businesses. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, but it requires that trust and that mindset of knowing, of feeling deep down and inspiring the employees to feel that that's our natural state of business. And that's the result we're going to experience.
Is that the natural state of business, abundance?
It is. God's abundant. We are abundant because he has empowered us.
And if you can tap into it, it'll change your life, change your business.
You've become supernatural with your business.
Right. How, right now, in our world, you're talking about this pivot that people are now doing. People are now facing the reality that you've got to pivot. And I think that how does one make this pivot right now in a world where there's such uncertainty going on all throughout the globe with the pandemic? We're still in the midst of this pandemic, and people are feeling what you felt.
Yeah.
And now people, I think they're becoming aware now. Would you agree that there's an awareness now that I have to pivot, or maybe I've been living in the shadow of somebody else's dream or somebody else's expectation? And you talk about this pivot,
Yep.
and you've got people at home going, that's me. I want to pivot into my true calling, my true purpose, my true God-given dream. And you're talking about this pivot, but I have to ask you, could you have pivoted when you did if you didn't forgive your dad? Did you forgive him? Number one, because in your book, I don't want to give it all away. I don't want to give it all away. You need to get this, by the way. We're going to drop a link down below. But your dad never apologized to you.
No.
For this. And this was a lot more dramatic than the way that you shared. The way you shared in the book is that the kitchen table, when you came through, I mean, it was a mess.
Yeah.
Everything was just everywhere, and you were out. You were gone.
I was gone.
You were gone, and it happened in front of your mother. It traumatized mom, and your sister. It traumatized your sister, and yet your father never apologized to you.
Right.
After this happened, and you had to forgive. Could you have pivoted without forgiveness? How important was that?
You know, we are all on a spiritual journey, right? We're on this earth to learn and grow. And I don't know exactly when it was. You know, I appreciated my dad for what he had done. He'd served in World War II. So I saw what he was trying to do, but I didn't like it, right? Right. But eventually, as I became an adult and became a father myself, you know, we say things as a parent that we regret later, right? And we all make those seeming mistakes. So I'm sure my dad felt now that he had made a mistake, and it wasn't what he really had wanted to do, but it was something that he felt he needed to do. So I forgave him for that. And I think in general, I forgave him for how he raised me. He was doing the best he could. So when we have that higher perspective, let's think about it from a spiritual perspective. You know, God, Spirit, Source, Universe, they love us. God loves us. He created us. And so we may have our faults, we may have our bad choices, but that love is continuous. It is nonstop, regardless of what we do. And so I realize that if God loves my father, my dad, then I could love him too. And it becomes a higher level of energy, a higher level of awareness. And I think if I could, I'd like to share a little bit about the 7 energy levels that I learned from my coaching program. And
Please.
it's really helpful because there's 2 kinds of energy. One is a positive energy, and the other is a negative energy. At the lowest level, level 1, is a negative energy, and it's characterized by I lose, or our business isn't competitive, we're going to lose. The second one is I'm just going to power through this. I'm going to force my way through it, and if you lose, that's your problem, but I'm going to win. Third level is I'm going to win, and if you win too, that's okay. Level 4 is, hey, I'm winning, but how can I help you? It's a compassionate level of energy. Level 5 is, hey, we're in this together. How do we collaborate? How do we win together? Level 6, when we're feeling God's abundance, is we always win. We always win. Amen. And then level 7, and this gets back to the forgiveness piece you're talking about, is it's not about winning. It's about how we play the game. How do we learn? How are we growing? And it's a higher level of awareness. And what happens is companies have better profits when they have a higher energy level. And it has a big impact.
Michael, this energy awareness that you're talking about, it literally transformed your life, did it not?
Oh, it totally did. And so when I was at that moment of trying to figure out, well, what do I do?
Right.
And I became aware of this energy piece. It, from a systems engineering perspective, it's like, that's the bridge. That's how we connect spirituality, connect intuition, connect a higher consciousness to our lives and to our business. And so when we have that higher level of inspiration, we can become more intuitive.
Right. Is the gift of intuition, is that more developed in women than in men?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that question, TC.
Right.
Because I thought it was. It is not
It's what
true.
I think. It's what I think.
It's not true. Men, we are taught to be unemotional. We are taught to think logically. We are taught to think that we have to reason and figure out the best way and look at it that way. But the better approach, the more mindful consciousness, the more divine consciousness is one of thinking about how, not only logically, but emotionally.
Before we go, please tell us a little bit more about your coaching program and who ideally contacts you for coaching.
Yeah, so I'm looking to bring spirituality to the workplace. And the way we can do that in a non-denominational, non-religious way is to talk about what kind of energy, what kind of compassion, what kind of empathy, what kind of energy level are we at? And what we know is that when a workplace has collaboration, when people feel empowered, they feel valued, they know that they're integral, that their leadership values them.
Right.
Their revenue, a friend of mine did a study, their revenue grows 2 to 7 times when they feel like they are a part of something bigger. And that's a spiritual piece. It doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but it is a spiritual piece. So what I do is I bring that energy, I bring that holistic thought of how do I know my thoughts, my reasoning, my emotions, and my intuition, bring that into making better choices as a business leader. How do I know what target to go after? What kind of strategies to bring in? And so what I bring to my clients and help people with is how to do that, how to bring that higher energy.
Who's your ideal client?
Yeah, my ideal client, if you think about it, is there's over 30% of the public that is spiritual but not religious. Well, that's a part of our workforce. So how do we bring a leader in to resonate with them, to connect with those employees who want to feel like, hey, I'm a part of something bigger? And we can do that by bringing a better energy awareness and create an environment where people feel included, and those profits and those results start to skyrocket.
Wow, wow. We're going to put a link down below for people to get in touch with you. Before you go, I want to invite you to do something really big, and that is close out our show speaking to the camera to over 200 nations, right now 93 million homes. Your message of hope and inspiration. So many people right now, you've got them so excited, Michael. They're looking to do this pivot in their life, and they need that hope, that encouragement for you. Sir, take your time and speak to over 200 nations.
Thank you, TC. Hey, to my brothers and sisters, you don't have to be religious to get the benefit of a natural law of abundance. You know, there's this one secret ingredient, one key to help us do that, and that's trust. Trusting that there is a divine power, that there is something there that is eager, ready to send an army of angels to help us, to give us those right ideas, to move into that next space. And our cup will overflow with abundance, with joy, with fun, with inspiration, with health and vitality in our business. It can be a part of us, and all we have to do is trust in that bigger power that makes anything on earth seem puny.
Michael, I loved having you here. Will you come back and see me again?
I would absolutely come back, TC, and enjoyed it very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Michael, here we are at the end of the show. It's time to do our prosperity dance. I want to invite you to join us in doing our prosperity dance. Did you bring those aviator shades?
I did, TC, I did.
All right, let's do it, my man.
Big Mike, hit my music, please.
Hey everybody, T.C. Bradley, host of God Made Millionaire TV, and I'm honored and privileged to host the hottest show on TV, where each and every Sunday we feature God's people, faith-based entrepreneurs and leaders activating their God-given dream right before your very eyes. I want to encourage you that if you're somebody that God has given a God-given dream, I invite you to come on our set and activate your God-given dreams. Book a call with our producers and walk in your destiny.